On a bustling playground filled with laughter and the sounds of children playing, a 7-year-old girl with leg braces and thick glasses suddenly tripped on an uneven sidewalk crack, falling hard onto the concrete as her books scattered around her. What happened next would reveal the cruel indifference of bystanders and the extraordinary courage of one little girl who refused to be defined by others' perceptions. If you believe in the power of resilience and want to witness moments that remind us of the strength of the human spirit, please subscribe to our channel now so you never miss another story that will restore your faith in humanity. Little Sophia Collins had been born with cerebral palsy, a condition that made simple movements a daily challenge, but had never diminished her bright smile or determination to be just like other children. As she lay there on the ground surrounded by adults and children who simply stared or walked past, nobody could have predicted how this moment would transform an entire community. Sophia's cheek pressed against the cool concrete, her glasses lying broken a few feet away. The world had become a blur of colors and shapes, but she could still make out the circle of legs surrounding her. Children and adults standing still, just watching. It had only been seconds since she fell, but it felt like hours as she lay there waiting for anyone to reach out a hand. "Are you okay?" No one asked. "Let me help you." No one offered. Instead, she heard whispers that cut deeper than the scrapes on her knees. "That's the new girl with the weird legs. Why does she walk like that?" "My mom says she's special, needs." Sophia's heart pounded in her chest as she remembered her mother's words from that morning. "First week at a new school is always tough, sweetie, but you're tougher. Show them who Sophia Collins really is." Her mother had adjusted Sophia's leg braces with practiced hands, making sure they were secure before helping her put on her favorite purple backpack with the sparkly stars. "You've got this sunshine," she had said, kissing Sophia's forehead. But now, lying on the ground surrounded by strangers, Sophia didn't feel tough at all. She felt small, invisible, broken. Like her glasses now lying in two pieces beside a scattered pile of library books she'd been so excited to check out. A few feet away, two teachers stood chatting by the tetherball pole, neither noticing the small drama unfolding on the playground. A parent volunteer looked over briefly, then deliberately turned away, pretending not to see the fallen child. A playground aide was busy breaking up an argument by the slide her back to Sophia. The circle of children grew, some pointing, some giggling, some just staring with uncomfortable curiosity. Yet not one stepped forward. Not one broke the invisible barrier between them and the girl with cerebral palsy who had transferred to their school just 4 days ago. Sophia felt a hot tear threatening to escape the corner of her eye, but she refused to let it fall. Crying would only make things worse, would only confirm what they already thought, that she was different. Weak, someone to be pitied or avoided. This wasn't the first time Sophia had fallen, and it wouldn't be the last. Cerebral palsy affected her muscle tone and coordination, making balance a constant challenge. But this was the first time she had fallen so publicly on display, like some exhibit at a zoo with spectators gawking from a safe distance. Through her blurred vision, Sophia saw Jackson Townsend, the boy all the other third graders seemed to admire. He stood at the edge of the circle whispering something to his friends that made them laugh. Sophia couldn't hear what he said, but the smirks on their faces told her enough. The playground sounds continued around her as if nothing had happened. The squeak of swings, the shouts from the kickball field, the rhythmic bounce of basketballs against asphalt. Normal, happy playground sounds that suddenly seemed to belong to a different world, one Sophia wasn't allowed to be part of, she thought. About her old school, where at least some kids would have helped, where Mr. Rodriguez, the custodian, always kept an eye out for her, where at least she hadn't felt quite so invisible. But they had moved because of Dad's new job, and now here she was, face down on the playground of Mapleton Elementary on a Tuesday morning, with absolutely no one willing to help her up. Sophia's palms stung where they had scraped against the concrete. Her right knee throbbed where it had taken the brunt of the fall. Her leg braces had prevented some damage, but had also made it harder to catch herself. And somewhere inside her chest was a pain that had nothing to do with falling. "Get up," she told herself silently. "Just get up." She remembered what her physical therapist, Ms. Jen, had taught her about falling. "It happens to everyone, Sophia, but especially to you, so we need to practice getting back up." They had spent entire sessions on the blue therapy mats, practicing the motions over and over until Sophia could do it without thinking. Hands flat, elbows, tight push and twist, Ms. Jen would coach as Sophia practiced rising from different fallen positions. Now, on the Mapleton playground, those practiced movements were Sophia's only allies. She placed her palms flat against the concrete, ignoring the sting of her scraped skin. She bent her elbows, keeping them close to her body, preparing for the push that would help her roll to a sitting position. It was harder on concrete than on the soft therapy mats, but the technique still worked. As Sophia began to move, the circle of onlookers widened slightly, giving her space, but still no assistance. She managed to push herself up enough to roll onto her side and to a sitting position, her leg braces making the movement awkward but possible. From sitting, she would need to get to her knees, then push up to standing, the hardest part with her affected leg muscles. Sophia glanced around one more time, hoping irrationally that someone would finally step forward. She saw curiosity, disgust, indifference on the faces surrounding her, but no compassion. Even the adults in the distance remained oblivious or deliberately unengaged. A wave of something new rose in Sophia's chest, not embarrassment or hurt, but determination, tinged with anger. If no one would help her, then she would help herself, just like she always had, just like she always would. With a deep breath, Sophia pushed against the ground, struggling to her knees, then using every technique Mrs. Jen had taught her. She forced her legs to cooperate, one wobbly inch at a time. Her leg braces creaked with the effort, but held firm, supporting her as she finally reached a standing position, her breathing heavy, her face flushed with exertion. The circle of children stepped back, some looking away, now uncomfortable with having witnessed her struggle. Sophia stood as straight as her body would allow, her chin lifted slightly in a gesture of dignity that seemed beyond her 7 years. Sophia stood swaying slightly as she caught her balance. Around her, the playground had grown strangely quiet. The usual cacophony of children's voices dimmed, as if everyone was holding their breath, watching what she would do next. Without her glasses, the world remained a blur of colors and shapes, but she could feel the weight of their stares. She bent down slowly, carefully, maintaining the precarious balance she had fought so hard to achieve. One by one, she gathered, her scattered books clutching them against her chest like a shield. Finding her broken glasses was harder, their familiar outline distorted and unfamiliar now. When her fingers finally closed around the two separate pieces, she felt a pang of anxiety knowing her parents couldn't afford to replace them easily. The silence stretched uncomfortably as Sophia completed her task. She could have asked for help now that she was standing, but something inside her refused. They had watched her fall. They had watched her struggle. They could watch her finish. "What are you looking at?" She wanted to shout at the circle of observers, but the words remained trapped behind the lump in her throat. Instead, she straightened her shoulders as much as her body would allow, and took a tentative step forward. The crowd parted reluctantly, creating a narrow path. Sophia began her halting journey across the playground, each step a small victory against gravity and the treacherous, uneven surface. Her leg braces squeaked slightly with each movement, a sound that seemed thunderous in the unnatural quiet. She didn't even cry, she heard a small voice whisper as she passed. "My mom would have helped her," another voice responded. "Then why didn't you?" A third challenged. Sophia kept moving forward, focusing on the school building ahead, her Safe place was the library where Mrs. Huang, the librarian, always greeted her with a genuine smile and never made her feel different. If she could just make it there. Halfway across the playground, Sophia heard rapid footsteps approaching from behind. For a moment, hope fluttered in her chest. Someone was coming to help after all. She turned her head slightly to see a blurry figure in a bright yellow shirt. Sophia, wait! It was Mrs. Parker, one of the playground aides. Sophia stopped reluctantly, knowing she couldn't outrun an adult, even if she wanted to. I just saw what happened, Ms. Parker said, slightly out of breath. Are you all right? Do you need to go to the nurse? Sophia looked at the woman's concerned face now that it was far too late. Where had she been 30 seconds ago? 1 minute ago? When Sophia had been lying on the ground when she had needed help the most? I'm fine, Sophia said quietly, clutching her books tighter. Your glasses? Ms. Parker gestured to the broken frames in Sophia's hand. They broke when I fell. Sophia stated the obvious, her tone flatter than she intended. Let me help you. To the nurse's office, she might be able to fix them temporarily until your parents can get new ones. Mrs. Parker reached for Sophia's elbow. Sophia stepped back instinctively. No, thank you. I can get there myself. She saw confusion cross Ms. Parker's face. Adults weren't used to children refusing their help, especially special needs, children who were expected to be grateful for any assistance offered. But Sophia didn't feel grateful. She felt angry. Angry that help came only after she had already managed on her own. Angry that it took her standing up alone for anyone to notice she had fallen at all. Sophia, honey, it's no trouble really. Ms. Parker. Try it again. I said I'm fine, Sophia interrupted with uncharacteristic firmness. I know where the nurse's office is. Leaving the stunned aide behind her, Sophia continued her determined journey toward the building. The pain in her knee throbbed with each step, the sting of her scraped palms sharp against the books she carried. But there was another pain, deeper and less definable, that hurt far worse. As she reached the door, Sophia heard the recess bell ring, signaling the end of morning break. Behind her, the strange silence broke as children rushed to line up with their classes, chattering and pushing, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if they hadn't just stood in a circle watching a disabled girl struggle alone. Inside the building, Sophia bypassed the nurse's office, heading straight for the girls' bathroom. She needed a moment alone before facing the rest of the day. Inside, she propped her books on the sink and looked at her reflection in the mirror, or tried to. Without her glasses, she was just a blurry shape with brown hair. Sophia ran her hands under cool water, watching the dirt from the playground swirl down the drain. Her palms stung, but she bit her lip, refusing to make a sound. Carefully, she dabbed at the scrape on her knee using damp paper towels to clean away the grit and blood. When she had done the best she could, Sophia tried to fit her glasses back together, holding the broken pieces against her face just long enough to see herself clearly for a moment. Her eyes were dry, no tears had fallen, but they looked different somehow, older than they had that morning. The bathroom door swung open and Sophia quickly lowered her broken glasses as two fifth-grade girls entered, chatting loudly. They paused. When they saw her, their conversation halting. Aren't you supposed to be in class? One of them asked. Sophia gathered her books without answering and pushed past them into the hallway, which was now mostly empty as students had returned to their classrooms. She made her way to room 18, where Mrs. Bennett, her teacher, would surely notice her late arrival and broken glasses. Pausing outside the classroom door, Sophia took a deep breath, steadying herself for the next challenge. She would have to explain what happened, why she was late, why her glasses were broken. She would have to feel their stares again, hear their whispers again, but she would do it. She would walk into that classroom with her head held high, just as she had picked herself up from the playground. Sophia Collins might have cerebral palsy, might need leg braces, might have just been treated as invisible by an entire playground of people, but she was not broken. With that thought, Sophia opened. the door and stepped inside. The lesson had already begun, and 24 heads turned simultaneously to look at her. Mrs. Bennet stopped mid-sentence, her expression changing from annoyance to concern as she took in Sophia's disheveled appearance. "Sophia, what happened?" the teacher asked, moving toward her. 24 pairs of eyes watched, waiting for her response. Somewhere among them were children who had stood in that circle on the playground, who had watched and done nothing. "I fell," Sophia said simply, her voice steady. "During recess I fell." Elena Rivera stood at the window of the art room, watching the playground scene unfold with growing disbelief. New to Mapleton Elementary, she had been organizing supplies during her prep period when movement outside caught her attention. A small girl falling hard onto the concrete. She had expected an immediate response from nearby adults and children. Instead, she witnessed something that made her stomach twist. A circle forming around the fallen child, but no one offering help. She had been about to rush outside herself when the little girl began the difficult process of getting up on her own. Elena watched the child's determined struggle, the precise, methodical way she pushed herself upright, despite her leg braces, the careful gathering of her scattered belongings, the dignified walk away from those who had failed her. Something about the scene struck Elena deeply, reminding her of another child from long ago. When the recess bell rang, Elena stepped back from the window, her hands trembling slightly, with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Anger, certainly, at the callous indifference she had witnessed, admiration for the little girl's resilience, and something else, a visceral recognition that cut to her core. By lunchtime, Elena had learned the girl's name, Sophia Collins, a third grader. New to the school this year, she had cerebral palsy and, according to the teacher's lounge chatter, was managing quite well considering her condition. No one mentioned the incident at recess. That afternoon, Sophia appeared in Elena's art class along with the rest of Mrs. Bennet's third graders. Elena noticed immediately the taped-together glasses perched on the girl's nose, the bandaged knee visible below her uniform skirt, the way she held herself slightly apart from the other children. "Good afternoon, everyone," Elena greeted the class. "For those who haven't met me yet, I'm Ms. Rivera, your new art teacher. I'm excited to create beautiful things with all of you this year." As the children settled at the tables, Elena moved around the room distributing paper and pencils. When she reached Sophia, she paused, noticing the girl's tense posture and downcast eyes. "Hello, Sophia," she said gently. "I'm glad you're in my class." Sophia looked up, startled by the personal greeting. Without her properly functioning glasses, Elena's face was slightly blurred, but Sophia could make out a kind smile and dark curly hair pulled back with colorful clips. "Thank you," Sophia replied automatically. Elena noticed the careful, precise way Sophia arranged her materials, the determined focus in her expression. This was a child accustomed to working harder than others just to accomplish the same tasks. "Today, we're going to create self-portraits," Elena announced to the class. "But with a twist, I want you to draw yourself doing something that makes you feel strong." The assignment was deliberate. Elena wanted to see how Sophia would represent herself, wanted to give her an opportunity to express something beyond the limited identity. Others seemed to have assigned her. As the children worked, Elena moved around the room, offering guidance and encouragement. She paused behind Sophia, observing her careful, methodical strokes. Unlike many of her classmates who drew themselves as superheroes or athletes, Sophia was creating a detailed image of herself, reading a large book. "That's beautiful, Sophia," Elena commented. "You must love reading." Sophia nodded without looking up. "Be it. Books don't care if you walk funny," she said so quietly. Elena almost missed it. The simple statement pierced Elena's heart. "No, they don't," she agreed. "Books care only about the journey your mind takes with them." A ghost of a smile crossed Sophia's face, the first Elena had seen. After class, as the students filed out, Elena made a decision. "Sophia," she called, "could you stay for a moment, please?" The girl approached Elena's desk hesitantly. Up close, Elena could see the careful tape job on the glasses, the quiet wariness in Sophia's eyes. "I noticed your glasses are broken," Elena said. "Did that happen today?" Sophia nodded. "When I fell at recess?" Elena took a breath, choosing her next words carefully. "I saw what happened from my window." She gestured toward the art room's large windows overlooking the playground. "I saw that no one helped you." Sophia's body stiffened, her expression closing like a door slamming shut. "I didn't need help," she said flatly. "Everyone needs help sometimes," Elena replied gently. "I admired how strong you were getting. Up on your own, but that doesn't make it right that no one offered to help." Sophia stared at Elena, as if trying to determine her motives. "Why are you telling me this?" Elena considered the question. Why indeed? What was her purpose in bringing this up with Sophia? "Because I want you to know that someone saw what happened," she finally said. "Someone noticed. And because I want to apologize." "You weren't even there," Sophia pointed out. "No. But I'm part of this school now just like you are. And I think we can do better." Sophia's expression remained guarded, but Elena sensed a flicker of interest. "Do you know why I became an art teacher, Sophia?" The girl shook her head. "Because art gives us a voice when words fail. It helps us express things we might not know how to say. It makes the invisible visible." Elena reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small sketchbook. "This belonged to my brother Marco. He had muscular dystrophy and used a wheelchair. When we were kids, people often acted like he was invisible or defined him only by his disability." She opened the sketchbook, revealing vibrant drawings full of movement and life. Art was how he showed the world who he really was, how he made people see him, not just his wheelchair. Sophia's eyes widened as she looked at the drawings. "These are really good." "Yes, they are," Elena agreed. "Marco taught me that true art comes from our deepest experiences, both beautiful and painful. He taught me to really see people." Elena closed the sketchbook carefully, returning it to her drawer. "Sophia, I'd like to give you something." She handed the girl a brand new sketchbook with a purple cover. "This is for your thoughts, your feelings, things you might not want to say out loud." Sophia took the sketchbook, her fingers tracing the cover. "Thank you," she said, and this time Elena could hear genuine emotion in her voice. "You're very welcome," Elena smiled. "And Sophia, I meant what I said earlier. I'm really glad you're in my class." As Sophia left, clutching the purple sketchbook to her chest, Elena stood at the window, watching the now empty playground. She thought of Marco, of the countless times she had stood up for him against the casual cruelty of others. She thought of Sophia standing alone, gathering her broken glasses with quiet dignity. Something needed to change at Mapleton Elementary, and Elena Rivera had just decided she would be the one to change it. The following Monday, Elena stood before the faculty gathered in the teacher's lounge for their weekly meeting. She had requested 5 minutes on the agenda, and Principal Winters had reluctantly agreed, though he made it clear that, as a new teacher, she should primarily be listening, not proposing initiatives. "Thank you for this opportunity," Elena began. "I'd like to propose a school-wide art project called Seeing the Invisible. Each class would create artwork exploring themes of empathy, inclusion, and perspective-taking." Several teachers exchanged glances. Mrs. Bennett, Sophia's teacher, raised her eyebrows skeptically. "That sounds nice, Ms. Rivera, but we have curriculum requirements to meet." "Art projects take time away from core subjects." Elena had anticipated this response. "The project would integrate with existing curriculum," she explained. For example, third graders studying communities could explore what makes an inclusive community. Fifth graders learning about social justice movements could create art about overlooked voices in history. She distributed handouts outlining grade-specific connections to standards. This wouldn't be just an art project, but a way to address school culture through academic content. Principal Winters scanned the proposal, his expression impassive. What prompted this idea, Miss Rivera? Elena took a breath, choosing her words carefully. I've observed some concerning interactions during my first weeks here. Instances where students, particularly those with differences, are being overlooked or excluded. I believe we have an opportunity to build a more compassionate community. The uncomfortable silence followed. Elena could feel resistance. In the room, no one liked hearing their school culture might have problems. Are you referring to specific incidents? The school counselor asked. Elena thought of Sophia alone on the playground. Yes, but I think they reflect systemic issues. Rather than isolated events, this project would help us address the culture proactively rather than reactively. After further discussion, Principal Winters agreed to allow the project on a trial basis. 3rd through 5th grades only, he stipulated, and it needs to clearly connect to academic standards. We'll evaluate the results before considering expansion. Elena left the meeting with mixed feelings. She had gained approval, but sensed reluctance from colleagues who viewed her project as an implicit criticism of their school. Only Mrs. Johnson, the music teacher, and Mr. Ramirez, the 4th grade teacher, had shown genuine enthusiasm. Nonetheless, Elena moved forward with determination. She spent the weekend developing detailed lesson plans and gathering materials. By Monday morning, she was ready. Today we're beginning a special project, Elena announced to Mrs. Bennett's 3rd grade class. Sophia sat in her usual spot at the back corner, her glasses now properly repaired, though the frame still bore evidence of their breaking. It's called Seeing the Invisible, and we'll be working on it for the next few weeks. She dimmed the lights and projected a series of optical illusions on the screen. What do you see in this first image? She asked. A vase? Several children called out. 2 faces, others countered. Elena nodded. Excellent. This image can be both a vase or 2 faces, depending on how you look at it. Sometimes what we see depends on our perspective. She showed several more examples, then transitioned to more complex images. In this picture, how many people do you see? The children counted eagerly. 5. Elena pointed to a shadowy figure in the background. What about this person here? Many people miss them because they're not in the foreground. Sometimes we only notice what's right in front of us and miss what's in the shadows. She could see understanding dawning on some faces, confusion on others. At the back, Sophia watched with intense interest. For our project, Elena continued, each of you will create artwork about someone or something you might have overlooked, someone who might feel invisible sometimes. It could be a person in our school community, a family member, or even a part of yourself you don't often show others. Jackson Townsend, the boy who had laughed at Sophia's fall, raised his hand. Like how the janitor is invisible because nobody really looks at him? Elena nodded encouragingly. That's an excellent example, Jackson. People whose jobs serve others are often overlooked. What might it feel like to be essential, yet unseen? The discussion continued with children offering examples of invisible people or qualities. Sophia remained silent, but Elena noticed her writing in the purple sketchbook absorbing everything. At the end of class, Elena assigned their first task, observation journals where students would record instances of invisibility they noticed throughout the week. Remember, she emphasized, this isn't about blaming or shaming, it's about becoming more aware of what and who we might be missing. As the children filed out, Elena noticed Jackson lingering uncertain. Ms. Rivera? He said once the others had gone. What if you were the one who made someone feel invisible? Can you still do art about that? Elena felt a surge of hope at his question. Especially then, Jackson. Art can be how we process difficult feelings like regret or shame. It can help us understand our actions and their impact. Jackson nodded solemnly. "Okay," he said. Before hurrying out, throughout the week, Elena introduced the project to all her classes, watching as the concept resonated differently with each age group. Fourth graders responded with curiosity, fifth graders with skepticism that gradually gave way to engagement. But it was the third graders, particularly Mrs. Bennett's class, who embraced it most fully. By Thursday, Elena began noticing small changes, children greeting the custodian by name, a group inviting a usually excluded student to join their lunch table, tiny ripples of awareness spreading through the school. In the teacher's lounge, reactions were mixed. Some colleagues expressed interest in how engaged their students had become. Others remained skeptical, viewing the project as unnecessary sentimentality. "Children need to develop resilience," Mrs. Bennett remarked during lunch. "The world isn't always kind. Protecting them from that reality doesn't help them in the long run." Elena considered her response carefully. "I agree that resilience is essential," she said. "But shouldn't we also teach them to create a kinder world? Resilience and compassion aren't mutually exclusive." Friday afternoon brought Elena's weekly session with Mrs. Bennett's class. As students settled at their tables, Elena noticed Sophia sitting slightly apart as usual, but something was different. Another girl had chosen to sit beside her, a quiet child named Maya, who had recently moved from India. "Today we'll begin sketching our final projects," Elena explained. "Use your observation journals to help you decide what you want to create. Remember, this isn't about artistic perfection, but about expressing something meaningful." As the children worked, Elena moved around the room, offering guidance. Jackson was creating a complex scene of the playground, his face intense with concentration. Maya was drawing what appeared to be her first day at school, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. And Sophia, Elena paused behind Sophia's chair, surprise and admiration flooding her. The girl was sketching a figure made entirely of glass, standing in a crowded room. Through the transparent body, you could see the other people continuing their conversations, unaware of the glass child in their midst. It was sophisticated, visually stunning, and heartbreakingly honest. "Sophia," Elena whispered, "this is extraordinary." Sophia looked up, uncertainty in her eyes. "Is it okay? It's not really about another person, it's more about how it feels to be you," Elena finished. "It's more than okay. It's powerful." A small smile touched Sophia's lips. "I've been working on it in the sketchbook you gave me," she admitted. "It helps, drawing it instead of just feeling it." Elena nodded, understanding completely. "That's exactly what art is for." She hesitated, then added, "Would you be willing to share this with others when it's finished? I think it might help people understand." Sophia considered the question seriously. "Maybe," she said finally. "I'll think about it." As Elena continued around the room, she felt a growing certainty that something important was happening. These children were not just creating art. They were developing awareness, empathy, perspective. They were beginning to see what had been invisible. And in the back corner, Sophia continued drawing her glass girl with meticulous care, her face serene with the power of finally being able to express what words could not say. Sophia's mother, Rebecca Collins, knew something was wrong the moment her daughter stepped off the school bus. There was a tightness around Sophia's mouth, a careful way she held herself that signaled trouble. But it wasn't until they were inside the house that Rebecca noticed the taped glasses and bandaged knee. "Sunshine, what happened?" she asked, setting down the grocery bag she'd been unpacking. Sophia hesitated, adjusting her glasses with practiced fingers. "I fell at recess." Rebecca knelt to examine her daughter's knee, maternal instincts, immediately assessing the damage. "These bandages are from the school nurse? Did she clean it properly?" Sophia nodded. "It's fine, Mom, just a scrape." But Rebecca knew her daughter well enough to recognize when something wasn't being said. "And your glasses? They look like they've been taped together." "They broke when I fell." Sophia explained, her voice carefully neutral. The nurse tried to fix them. Rebecca sighed, calculating the cost of new frames in a budget already stretched thin. David's new job paid better than his previous position, but the move had been expensive, and Sophia's ongoing medical needs consumed a significant portion of their income. "We'll get them replaced this weekend," she promised. "In the meantime, is the tape holding them okay? Can you see all right?" Sophia nodded again, turning toward the stairs that led to her bedroom. Rebecca watched her daughter's careful progress up the steps, noting the slight favor of her right leg, the tension in her small shoulders. "Sophia," she called softly. "There's more to this story, isn't there?" Sophia paused on the stairs, her back to her mother. For a long moment she said nothing, and Rebecca waited, knowing her daughter needed time. "Nobody helped me," Sophia finally said, her voice so quiet Rebecca had to strain to hear it. "I fell, and everybody just watched. Nobody helped me up, nobody. Asked if I was okay. They just stared." Rebecca felt as if someone had punched her in the stomach. "Oh, sweetheart." She climbed the stairs, gathering her daughter into her arms, feeling the small body trembling against her. "I'm so sorry." Sophia's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks, soaking into Rebecca's shirt. "Why, Mom? Why did they just watch? Even the teachers didn't help. I had to get up all by myself and pick up my books and my broken glasses while everyone just stared." Rebecca held her daughter tighter, fighting her own tears. What could she say? How could she explain the casual cruelty of the world to a 7-year-old who had already faced more challenges than most adults? "Sometimes people don't know what to do when someone is different," she began carefully. "It scares them or makes them uncomfortable, so they freeze. It doesn't make it right, but it's not fair," Sophia interrupted, pulling back to look at her mother, her face flushed with emotion. "I try so hard. Mom, I try to be normal. I try not to complain when my legs hurt. I try to keep up with everyone else. But they still look at me like I'm some kind of alien." The raw hurt in her daughter's voice broke Rebecca's heart. Sophia rarely complained about her condition, had always faced her challenges with remarkable resilience. To hear her finally express the pain she must have been carrying all this time was both devastating and necessary. "Come sit with me," Rebecca said, leading Sophia to her bedroom. They settled on the purple bedspread, surrounded by the books and stars Sophia loved. "You're right, it's not fair. And you shouldn't have to try so hard to be normal because you're already perfect exactly as you are." Sophia wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "But if I was perfect, people would help me when I fall. They wouldn't laugh and whisper." "The problem isn't with you, Sophia. It's with them," Rebecca said firmly. "And while we can't control how other people act, we can control how we respond." "I did respond," Sophia said, a flash of something like pride crossing her face. "I got up all by myself. I didn't cry. I didn't let them see me upset." Rebecca brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "That was incredibly brave, but you know what? It's also okay to accept help when it's offered. It's okay to need people sometimes." Sophia considered this, but no one offered. "This time," Rebecca acknowledged, "but not everyone is like those children and teachers. There are people who see you, really see you." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "Ms. Rivera sees me," she finally said. "Who's Ms. Rivera?" "The new art teacher. She gave me this." Sophia reached under her bed and pulled out a purple sketchbook. "She said it's for things I can't say with words." Rebecca flipped through the pages, her breath catching at the sophisticated images her 7-year-old had created. Page after page of expressive drawings, many featuring a girl made of glass, transparent but present, surrounded by people who looked through her. "Sophia, these are amazing," she whispered. "Is this how you feel? Like you're made of glass?" Sophia nodded. "Sometimes, like people can see through me, like I'm not really there." Rebecca pulled her daughter close again. "You are here. You are real and solid and important. And if those people at school can't see that, then they're the ones with the problem, not you. They sat together in silence for a while, Rebecca holding her daughter Sophia, leaning into her mother's strength. When David Collins arrived home from work an hour later, he found them still sitting together on Sophia's bed. "What's going on?" he asked, taking in his daughter's tear-stained face, his wife's protective posture. Rebecca met her husband's eyes communicating volumes in a single look. "Sophia had a hard day at school," she said simply. David sat on the edge of the bed, his large hand gentle on Sophia's shoulder. "Want to tell me about it, kiddo?" Sophia told her story again, this time with fewer tears, but no less impact. David listened, his expression darkening with each detail. By the time she finished describing how she had gathered her broken glasses while children watched, his hands were clenched into fists. "I'm calling the school," he said, standing abruptly. "This is completely unacceptable." "Dad, no," Sophia protested, alarm replacing the hurt in her eyes. "You'll make it worse. They'll all know I tattled." David paused, torn between his instinct to protect his daughter and his respect for her wishes. "Sunshine, they can't treat you like this. The teachers at minimum should be held accountable." "Please, Dad," Sophia pleaded. "I don't want to be the kid whose parents complained. I just want to figure it out myself." Rebecca and David exchanged looks, having one of those silent parental conversations that Sophia couldn't quite interpret. "What if we give it a little time?" Rebecca suggested. Sophia mentioned a teacher, Ms. Rivera, who seems to be paying attention. Maybe things will improve. David sat back down, taking Sophia's small hand in his. "1 week," he said. "Finally, we'll give it 1 week. But if anything like this happens again, or if things don't improve, I'm going to the principal. Deal?" Sophia nodded, relief evident on her face. "Deal." That night, after Sophia had gone to bed, Rebecca and David sat at the kitchen table, cups of coffee cooling between them. "We should never have moved here," David said, his voice tight with regret. "She was doing so well at her old school." Rebecca reached for his hand. "We moved for your job, for our family's future. We couldn't have known." "Still," David insisted, "she shouldn't have to deal with this. She already has enough challenges." Rebecca thought of the glass girl in Sophia's sketchbook, the transparent child no one could see. "Maybe," she said slowly, "this is a challenge she needs to face. With our support, of course, but in her own way." David looked skeptical. "She's 7, Becca. She shouldn't have to be this strong." "No," Rebecca agreed. "She shouldn't have to be, but she is. And maybe that strength will serve her better in the long run than any protection we could provide." Subtle changes began appearing at Mapleton Elementary in the days following Sophia's fall. Small ripples spreading outward, affecting different people in different ways. Most noticeable was Jackson Townsend, the boy who had laughed when Sophia fell out. On Monday morning, he arrived at school earlier than usual, hovering near the entrance, watching the buses arrive. When Sophia stepped off her bus, Jackson approached her awkwardly, shifting from foot to foot. "Hi," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. I found this book in the library. It's about space and stars and stuff. The librarian said you might like it." Sophia stared at him suspiciously as he held out a colorful book about constellations. "Why are you giving me this?" Jackson shrugged uncomfortably. "Just thought you might like it. You don't have to take it." Sophia hesitated, then accepted the book. "Thank you," she said formally. Jackson nodded and hurried away, leaving Sophia puzzled by the interaction. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was something. In class, Mrs. Bennett seemed more attentive than before, calling on Sophia, regularly checking that she could see the board with her repaired glasses. It was a subtle shift, but Sophia noticed it, wondering if someone had spoken to the teacher, perhaps the art teacher, Mrs. Rivera. During group work, Maya, the quiet girl from India, continued to partner with Sophia, a tentative friendship forming between them. "I like your drawings," Maya told her as they worked on a math assignment together. "The glass girl is beautiful, sad, but beautiful. Sophia blinked in surprise. You saw my sketchbook? Maya nodded. In art class, when you were getting more colored pencils. I hope that's okay. Instead of feeling invaded, Sophia felt oddly validated. Someone had seen her work and understood it. It's okay, she said. Do you like drawing too? Maya smiled shyly. I'm not very good, but yes, I like it. In my old school in Mumbai, I took art lessons. The conversation flowed easily. After that, both girls discovering shared interests beyond art, fantasy. Book science fiction shows a fascination with the night sky. By lunchtime, it seemed natural for them to sit together at a small table near the window. Do you mind if I sit with you? A hesitant voice interrupted their lunch. It was Alicia, a girl from their class who had never spoken to either of them before. Sophia and Maya exchanged surprised glances. Sure, Sophia said cautiously. Alicia sat down, unpacking her lunch. I really liked what you said in art class, she told Sophia. About how books don't care if you look different. I never thought about it that way before. The following day, 2 more classmates joined their lunch table. By Friday, their small table near the window had become a gathering spot for what Maya called the quiet ones, children who for various reasons had existed on the social periphery of the Ian classroom, and the teacher's lounge changes were happening too. Elena Rivera had continued advocating for her Seeing the Invisible project, sharing student work in progress with colleagues. Mr. Ramirez, the 4th grade teacher, became an enthusiastic supporter, incorporating the theme into his social studies. Curriculum: my students are creating oral histories of overlooked community members, he explained during a staff meeting. They're interviewing school custodians, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, people they interact with daily but rarely truly see. Even Mrs. Bennett seemed affected. I've noticed some positive changes in classroom dynamics, she admitted to Elena. Students who rarely participated are speaking up more. There's less clustering of the same social groups. Principal Winters remained cautious but intrigued. He began observing classrooms more frequently, lingering in hallways during transitions, watching the playground during recess with more attentive eyes. Perhaps the most significant change occurred on the playground itself. Ms. Parker, the aide, who had failed to help Sophia after her fall, had become hyper-vigilant, almost overcompensating in her attention to vulnerable students. Sophia noticed the woman watching her constantly, ready to intervene at the slightest hint of trouble. She's trying too hard, Sophia confided to Maya during recess. Now she treats me like I'm made of glass for real. Maya giggled. Maybe. You should show her your drawing so she understands the difference. Despite Mrs. Parker's awkward attention, Sophia found herself enjoying recess more than before. With Maya beside her, she felt less exposed, less vulnerable. They created their own games in a quiet corner of the playground, sometimes joined by other children from their lunch table. On Thursday, during recess, Jackson approached their corner, his usual cluster of friends watching from a distance. Do you guys want to play kickball? He asked. We need more players. Sophia tensed immediately. Kickball was practically designed to humiliate someone with her motor difficulties. Was this some kind of trick? Sophia doesn't have to kick. If she doesn't want to, Jackson added quickly, as if reading her thoughts. She could be the referee. Maya too, if she wants. The offer was clearly an attempt at inclusion, albeit a clumsy one. Sophia considered refusing, but something in Jackson's expression, an earnestness, a hope, made her reconsider. Can kick, she said, lifting her chin slightly. I'm just not very fast running the bases. Jackson nodded. That's okay. We can have a pinch runner. That's allowed, right? And so Sophia found herself participating in a playground game for the first time since arriving at Mapleton. She kicked the ball weakly, but definitively, while Maya ran the bases for her. No one complained. No one laughed. When she successfully reached first base via Maya's running, her team actually cheered, From her vantage point near the school entrance, Elena Rivera watched the kickball game unfolding with a mixture of surprise and satisfaction. She noticed Principal Winters standing nearby, observing the same scene. "Interesting developments," he commented. "Your project seems to be having some effect." Elena nodded. "Art has a way of changing perspectives. When children express their experiences visually, it creates empathy in ways that mere discussions cannot." Winters studied her thoughtfully. "I was skeptical," he admitted. "These kinds of initiatives often fade quickly, but I'm seeing real changes in student interactions." Across the playground, Sophia was taking her turn as referee, calling a close play at second base. Her voice rang out clear and confident, a voice that had rarely been heard in this space. "You were right to push for this," Winters continued. "The school needed it, needed someone to point out what we weren't seeing." Elena thought of her brother Marco, of the countless battles he had faced, the way he had used his art to make himself visible. "Sometimes we all need reminding to look beyond the surface," she said. "Children are actually better at it than adults once they're given permission." The recess bell rang, signaling the end of the period. Elena watched as Sophia and Maya walked back toward the building, together, their heads close in conversation. Jackson and several other children walked nearby, not exactly with them, but not deliberately separate either. Small changes, subtle shifts, but meaningful ones? It's a beginning, Elena thought. The project wasn't finished, the exhibition still lay ahead. Sophia's powerful glass girl had yet to be revealed to the wider community, but something had started. Something was growing, ripples of awareness spreading through Mapleton Elementary, one child, one teacher, one interaction at a time. The gymnasium of Mapleton Elementary had been transformed. Portable display panels lined the walls, colorful artwork carefully mounted on each one. Strings of lights crisscrossed the ceiling, giving the usually stark space a warm, intimate glow. Chairs had been arranged in the center, creating a small performance area for student presentations. A refreshment table stood near the entrance, stocked with cookies and punch prepared by parent volunteers. Elena Rivera surveyed the space with nervous excitement. After weeks of preparation, the Seeing the Invisible exhibition was ready to open to the community. What had begun as a simple classroom project had evolved into a school-wide event, with Principal Winters now fully supportive, even appearing on the local morning news to promote it. "This looks amazing, Ms. Rivera," Sophia said, appearing at Elena's side. The girl had arrived early at Elena's request to help with final preparations and to see her artwork professionally displayed before the crowds arrived. "It does, doesn't it?" Elena agreed. "Are you ready to see your piece in its place of honor?" Sophia nodded, her expression a mixture of nervousness and pride. Elena led her to the center panel, directly facing the entrance, the focal point of the entire exhibition. "Oh," Sophia breathed when she saw it. Elena had mounted Sophia's Glass Girl drawing on black background paper, which made the delicate pencil and watercolor work seem to float on the wall. She had added subtle lighting that highlighted the transparent quality of the central figure. A small placard beside it read, "Invisible," by Sophia Collins, age 7. "It looks important," Sophia said softly. Elena knelt beside her. "It is important, Sophia. It's one of the most honest, powerful pieces of art I've seen from someone your age. It expresses something many people feel but can't put into words." Sophia reached out, touching the edge of the frame. "Do you think people will understand it?" "I think they'll understand their own version of it," Elena explained. "Great art connects to something universal. Your glass girl might mean something slightly different to each person who sees her, but they'll recognize the feeling." Students and teachers began arriving, some helping with last-minute preparations, others eager for a preview before parents and community members arrived. Jackson appeared with his parents in tow, insisting they see his artwork immediately. "It's over here," he said, pulling them toward a display of 4th and 5th grade work. He pointed to a detailed drawing showing the playground from an aerial perspective. In it, children clustered in groups while a single small figure lay on the ground surrounded by a circle of onlookers. "This is my perspective piece," Jackson explained to his confused parents. "It's about how sometimes we see things happening but don't do anything. How we become bystanders." Elena overheard the explanation, watching Jackson's parents' expressions shift from confusion to understanding to subtle discomfort. Good, she thought. Sometimes discomfort is necessary for growth. By 6 o'clock, the gymnasium was filled with parents, grandparents, community members, and students proudly showing off their work. Principal Winters circulated through the crowd, stopping frequently to praise specific pieces and explain the project's purpose to visitors. Ms. Rivera challenged our students to look beyond the surface, he told a group of school board members, to notice those who might feel invisible or overlooked. The results have been remarkable both artistically and in terms of school climate. Elena observed Sophia standing beside her artwork, answering questions from visitors with growing confidence. Her parents stayed nearby, their faces reflecting pride and something more complex, perhaps a recognition of how their daughter's private pain had been transformed into something beautiful and meaningful. Maya's family had come too, the girls, mother resplendent in a colorful sari, her father taking photos of everything. They made a point of introducing themselves to Sophia's parents, the beginnings of a friendship, forming between the two families united by their daughter's connection. At 7 o'clock, Eleanor rang a small bell signaling the start of the presentation portion of the evening. Students had prepared brief statements about their artwork and the inspiration behind it. "Welcome everyone," Elena began, once the crowd had settled into chairs. "Tonight represents the culmination of our Seeing the Invisible project. Students were asked to create art about those who might feel unseen or overlooked in our community. They approached this challenge with remarkable insight, empathy, and courage." She introduced students one by one, each coming forward to present their work. 5th graders spoke about portraits they'd created of cafeteria workers and custodians, revealing details about these staff members' lives outside school. 4th graders presented a collaborative mural depicting hidden heroes in their community. When it came time for the 3rd grade presentations, Jackson volunteered to go first. He stood before the audience, his usual confidence subdued. "My art is called The Circle," he said, pointing to his aerial view of the playground. "It shows something that happened at our school that I'm not proud of." His voice faltered slightly before continuing. "A girl fell on the playground, and nobody helped her. We all just watched. I even laughed." A murmur ran through the audience. Elena noticed Sophia's parents exchange glances, her father's expression darkening. "I drew this from above so you can see how we all stood around her like a circle." "Not helping, just watching," Jackson continued. "Ms. Rivera taught us that being a bystander means you're part of the problem. I don't want to be part of the problem anymore." He looked directly at Sophia for the first time that evening. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "Your glass girl drawing helped me understand how it felt, and I'm really sorry." The silence that followed was profound. Elena saw Sophia nod slightly in acknowledgement, saw the tension in her father's shoulders ease just a fraction. Other 3rd graders presented their work, the mood gradually lightening. Maya showed her piece depicting her first day at a new school in a new country with unfamiliar faces and customs surrounding her. Alicia presented a portrait of her grandmother, who was losing her memory, describing how sometimes her grandmother felt invisible even within their family. Finally, it was Sophia's turn. Elena had placed her last, intentionally knowing her piece would have the greatest impact. Sophia approached the front hesitantly, her leg braces creaking slightly. "In the quiet room, my art is called Invisible," she began, her voice small but clear. "It shows how it feels when people look through you instead of at you." She described her glass girl, how the transparency represented feeling unseen, how the solid objects the girl held symbolized the things that anchored her to the world. Books, dreams, knowledge. Being different sometimes makes people uncomfortable, Sophia continued with wisdom beyond her years. They don't know what to say or do, so they pretend not to see you. But everybody wants to be seen, really seen. Elena watched the audience, many wiping away tears as this small girl in leg braces articulated something profoundly human. The universal desire to be acknowledged, to be valued, to be visible. The girl in my picture is made of glass, Sophia concluded. But she's still there, still real, still important, even if you can see through her. The applause that followed was immediate and heartfelt. Sophia's parents embraced her when she returned to her seat, her father lifting her into his arms, heedless of her leg braces or the crowded room. As the formal presentations ended and people returned to viewing the artwork, Elena felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Principal Winters, his eyes suspiciously bright. "Thank you," he said simply. "This is what education should be." The Mapleton Gazette ran a front-page story about the exhibition the following Sunday. "Seeing the Invisible, Elementary Students Teach Community About Empathy," the headline declared above a color photograph of Sophia standing beside her glass girl artwork. The reporter Sandra Lee had attended the exhibition, spending nearly 2 hours interviewing students, teachers, and parents. What began as an art project became a catalyst for cultural change at Mapleton Elementary. The article stated, students were challenged to notice the overlooked members of their community, resulting in artwork that ranged from poignant to profound. The article highlighted several student pieces, including Jackson's aerial playground scene and Sophia's glass girl, which Sandra described as startlingly sophisticated in both concept and execution, particularly coming from a 7-year-old artist. By Monday morning, the story had been picked up by regional news outlets and shared widely on social media. Elena arrived at school to find a message from the district superintendent commending the project and requesting a meeting to discuss potentially expanding it to other schools. "You've become quite the celebrity," Principal Winters commented when he encountered Sophia in the hallway. "How does it feel to be on the front page of the newspaper?" Sophia considered the question seriously. "Weird," she finally answered. "But good weird, I think." The attention extended beyond the newspaper. A local television station sent a crew to film a segment about the project, interviewing Elena, several students, and Principal Winters. Sophia's parents had given permission for her to be included, but requested that the focus remain on the artwork rather than on Sophia's disability. "This isn't about cerebral palsy," David Collins told the producer firmly. "It's about a girl with something important to express." The producer agreed, and the resulting segment presented Sophia as an artist, first her leg braces incidental to the story. The piece aired on the evening news, prompting another wave of attention, including a call from the director of the County Arts Council. "We'd like to feature Sophia's piece in our annual Young Artists Showcase," the director explained to Elena. "Her work embodies exactly what we're trying to promote, art that communicates powerful messages, regardless of the artist's age or circumstances." Elena relayed the invitation to Sophia and her parents, who accepted with a mixture of pride and caution. "As long as it remains about the art," Rebecca emphasized, echoing her husband's earlier sentiment. At school, the atmosphere had shifted subtly but significantly. Students who had previously ignored Sophia now greeted her in hallways, sometimes asking about her artwork or commenting on the newspaper article. Teachers who had barely noticed her before now made points of acknowledging her contributions. "In class, it's like suddenly everyone can see me," Sophia told Maya during lunch. "Except now I'm not sure I want so many people looking." Maya nodded, understanding. "My grandmother says, be careful what you wish for." "I didn't wish to be famous," Sophia protested. "I just wanted to be normal." Normal is boring, Maya declared with newfound confidence. And your art wouldn't be special if you were just like everyone else. The most meaningful changes, however, weren't about attention or recognition, but about genuine inclusion. Ms. Parker, the playground aide who had once failed to help Sophia after her fall, had initiated a student buddy system, ensuring that no child played alone during recess. Jackson and several other boys had modified their usual games to make them accessible for Sophia and other students with physical limitations. Even Mrs. Bennett had evolved, moving from skepticism to cautious support of Elena's initiatives. She had rearranged the classroom seating to encourage more diverse social groupings and begun incorporating discussions about empathy and inclusion into her daily lessons. "I've been teaching for 22 years, she admitted to Elena during a planning period. "Sometimes you fall into patterns without realizing it. Your project helped me see my classroom with fresh eyes." The most surprising development came from Principal Winters, who announced at a staff meeting that Mapleton Elementary would be undergoing an accessibility audit. "We need to ensure our physical environment is as inclusive as we want our social environment to be," he explained. "That means examining everything from playground equipment to classroom layouts to ensure all students have equal access." For Sophia, these changes manifested in concrete ways. A small ramp appeared at the troublesome step where she had fallen. The library reorganized its shelves to make popular books more accessible to students of all heights and abilities. The cafeteria introduced trays with non-slip surfaces, making it easier for students with motor control issues to carry their lunches. They fixed the crack in the sidewalk, Sophia noted to her mother one morning as they approached the school entrance. "The one I tripped on," Rebecca squeezed her daughter's hand. "Sometimes it takes someone falling for others to notice the cracks. Not everyone embraced the changes." Elena overheard complaints from some parents about excessive focus on differences and lowering standards to accommodate special needs. A few teachers continued to view the project as unnecessary sentimentality, a distraction from academic priorities. "You can't change everyone's mind overnight," Mr. Ramirez reminded Elena when she expressed frustration about the resistance. "Cultural shifts take time. Focus on the progress, not the holdouts." The progress was indeed remarkable. In the weeks following the exhibition, incidents of bullying decreased significantly according to school counselor reports. Student participation in class discussions increased, particularly among those previously reluctant to speak up. Parent volunteers at the school doubled, many inspired by the community spirit they had witnessed at the exhibition. For Sophia personally, the most significant change was neither the attention nor the physical improvements to the school, but the friendship that had developed with Maya. The quiet girl from India had become Sophia's closest ally. Their bond strengthened through shared experiences as outsiders who had found their voices. "My grandmother wants you to come for dinner," Maya told Sophia during art class. "She says she wants to meet the girl who paints her soul." Sophia looked up from her latest drawing, no longer a glass girl but a figure gradually becoming solid as colors filled in her previously transparent form. "I'd like that," she said. Smiling, Elena observed the girls working side by side, noting how both had changed in the weeks since the project began. Maya, more confident. Sophia, more open. This, she thought, is the real success. Not the newspaper articles or the superintendent's praise, but these small human connections. This gradual awakening to each other's humanity. After school, Sophia waited for her mother by the front entrance, sketching in the purple notebook Elena had given her. When Rebecca arrived, Sophia showed her the drawing in progress. "She's not glass anymore," Rebecca observed. Studying the partially colored figure, Sophia nodded. "Not completely, not yet, but she's changing." Sophia was eating breakfast when her father nearly spilled his coffee. "Rebecca," he called to his wife, his eyes fixed on his phone screen. "You need to see this." Rebecca looked over his shoulder, her expression changing from curiosity to surprise. Is that Sophia's artwork? Yes, David confirmed. It's been shared by National Education Page. 30,000 likes already. Sophia paused mid-bite, her spoon hovering above her cereal bowl. What does that mean? Her parents exchanged glances, neither quite sure how to explain the concept of going viral to a 7-year-old. It means a lot of people are seeing your Glass Girl drawing, Rebecca finally explained. People far beyond Mapleton. What had begun as local news had somehow captured broader attention. The article about Mapleton's art exhibition had been picked up by an education blog which highlighted Sophia's artwork and story. From there, it had spread to larger platforms, each share amplifying its reach. By the time Sophia arrived at school that morning, the main office was fielding calls from media outlets across the country. The school secretary looked harried as she attempted to manage the sudden influx of attention. Sophia, Principal Winters called, spotting her in the hallway. Just the young artist I wanted to see. We've had some inquiries about your artwork. Quite a few, actually. Sophia clutched her purple sketchbook tighter. What kind of inquiries? Well, Winters began choosing his words carefully. Several news organizations would like to interview you, and the State Arts Council has called. Even a morning television show from New York? Sophia felt a flutter of panic in her chest. This was too much too fast. The newspaper article had been strange enough, but this was overwhelming. I don't think I want to be on TV, she said quietly. Winters nodded understandingly. Of course, that's entirely up to you and your parents. I just wanted to let you know what's happening. Ms. Rivera will be handling most of the media requests, so you don't need to worry. In class, Sophia found herself the center of attention in a new way. Classmates reported seeing her artwork. Online showed her comments from people they knew who had shared it. Even Mrs. Bennett seemed impressed, mentioning that the superintendent had personally called to commend the school. Why is everyone making such a big deal? Sophia whispered to Maya during math. It's just a drawing. Maya shook her head. It's not just a drawing. It's something people recognize in themselves. My mother says art that speaks truth always finds its audience. By lunchtime, Elena had established a protocol for handling the media requests, consulting closely with Sophia's parents about how to proceed. We need to protect Sophia's privacy, while still allowing her work to have the impact it deserves, she explained to Principal Winters. They agreed that Sophia would not appear on television or give direct interviews. Instead, Elena would represent the project with Sophia's parents, providing written responses to select questions. The artwork would be the focus, not the young artist herself. Despite these boundaries, the attention continued to grow. By Wednesday morning, the original social media post featuring Sophia's Glass Girl had been shared over 100,000 times, accompanied by comments from people who found deep resonance in the image. This is exactly how I felt as a child with dyslexia. Invisible, yet watching everything. I'm a 45-year-old woman, and this drawing brought me to tears. Someone finally captured the feeling. If a 7-year-old can express this so clearly, why can't we adults see each other better? The most unexpected call came Thursday afternoon. This is Andrea Mitchell from National Morning Today, the producer explained to a stunned Elena. We'd like to feature the Seeing the Invisible project on our show. We understand Sophia's parents prefer she not appear on camera, but we'd love to have you discuss the project and showcase the artwork. National Morning Today was the country's most watched morning program, reaching millions of viewers daily. The opportunity to share the project's message on such a platform was extraordinary. They want to fly me to New York, Elena told Sophia and her parents during an after-school meeting, to talk about the project and show your artwork. But only if you're comfortable with that. David and Rebecca looked to Sophia. What do you think, Sunshine? David asked. It's your drawing, your story. You get to decide. Sophia considered carefully. The attention made her uncomfortable, but the messages people had shared about how her drawing affected them, those meant something. "Will it help?" she finally asked. "Will it help other kids who feel invisible?" Elena nodded. "I believe it will. Your glass girl has already touched so many people, Sophia. She's helping them feel seen and understood. Then it's okay." Sophia decided. "As long as they talk about the art, not about me being, she gestured to her leg braces. "We'll make that absolutely clear," Rebecca assured her. The following Monday, Elena appeared on National Morning Today, speaking eloquently about the project while Sophia's artwork was displayed on screen. She explained how art could create empathy and understanding, how children often expressed truths adults struggled to articulate. The glass girl drawing wasn't created as a plea for attention, Elena explained to the hosts. It was simply one child's honest expression of her experience. That's why it resonates so deeply with so many people. At home, Sophia watched the segment with her parents, feeling a strange disconnect between the national conversation about her artwork and her everyday reality. "It's weird," she told them. "Everyone's talking about my drawing, but they don't really know me." "That's often how art works," Rebecca explained. "Once you create something and share it, it takes on a life of its own. It belongs partly to everyone who sees it and finds meaning in it." Back at school, the media attention created a complex situation. Some students treated Sophia with a new deference, almost awe, that made her deeply uncomfortable. Others seemed resentful of the attention she had received. Teachers varied in their responses, some using the moment as a teaching opportunity, others trying to maintain normal routines despite the disruption. Principal Winters held a special assembly addressing the situation directly. "Our school has received national attention because of one student's powerful artwork," he told the gathered children. But the message of the Seeing the Invisible project applies to all of us. We all have times when we feel unseen. We all have the power to truly see others. Through it all, Sophia found herself clinging to the constants in her life. Her parents' steady support, Maya's straightforward friendship, Elena's protective guidance. The viral attention would fade, they assured her, but the connections she had formed, the voice she had found, those would remain. "People keep asking what inspired you to create the glass girl," Maya said during art class. "What do you tell them?" Sophia considered the question as she worked on her newest drawing, the partially solid figure taking more definite form with each session. "I tell them the truth," she said finally, "that sometimes you have to fall down for people to see you standing up." 1 month after the exhibition, Principal Winters stood before the Mapleton Elementary School Board presenting plans for significant changes to the school's physical environment and curriculum. The national attention had accelerated initiatives that might otherwise have taken years to implement. The Seeing the Invisible project revealed gaps in our approach to inclusion, Winters explained, pointing to slides that detailed proposed modifications. These changes will benefit not just students with physical disabilities, but all children who learn and interact differently. The plans included redesigned playground equipment, accessible to children of varying abilities, renovated bathrooms, with accessibility features and classroom modifications to accommodate different learning needs. Beyond physical changes, Winters outlined curriculum updates emphasizing empathy building, social-emotional learning, and arts integration across subjects. This isn't just about ramps and wider doorways, he emphasized. It's about creating a culture where every child feels seen and valued. The school board unanimously approved the proposals, with the superintendent adding that Mapleton would become a model for other schools in the district. The viral attention had brought not just recognition but also grants and donations to fund the improvements. What had begun with one child's fall had somehow catalyzed transformation for an entire educational community. Sophia observed these developments with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. In morning meetings, her classmates now routinely discussed inclusion and accessibility concepts that had rarely been mentioned before. Teachers incorporated perspective-taking exercises into lessons, asking students to consider how different individuals might experience the same situation. "We're starting an accessibility committee," Mrs. Bennett announced to the class one Monday morning. "Students who want to help ensure our school works for everyone. Who would like to volunteer?" Several hands shot up, including Maya's, Jackson's, and to Sophia's surprise, her own. She hadn't planned to volunteer, but something compelled her, perhaps the realization that she had unique insights to offer. "Excellent," Mrs. Bennett smiled, noting the volunteers. "Sophia, would you be willing to chair the committee? Your perspective would be particularly valuable." Sophia blinked in surprise. "Me? Chair the committee? Only if you're comfortable." "With it," Mrs. Bennett added quickly. "But you have first-hand experience with navigating our school's environment. That knowledge could help us identify issues others might miss." Sophia looked around at her classmates, saw encouragement in their faces rather than pity or awkwardness. "Okay," she agreed. "I can do that." The Student Accessibility Committee began meeting weekly during lunch periods. They conducted accessibility audits, examining different areas of the school from the perspective of various needs. They created surveys for students to report challenges they encountered. They researched solutions implemented at other schools. To Sophia's surprise, Jackson became one of the committee's most dedicated members. "I'm good at sports and stuff," he explained when Maya questioned his involvement. "But Sophia's good at seeing problems no one else notices. We need different strengths to make things better." This newfound awareness extended beyond the school into the wider community. The City Parks Department contacted Principal Winters asking for input on making public playgrounds more inclusive. The Public Library initiated a series on disability representation in children's literature, inviting Sophia and Elena to speak at the opening event. "It's like ripples in a pond," Elena observed during a staff meeting. "What started in our classrooms is spreading outward. Even Sophia's physical therapy sessions were affected." Ms. Jen, her longtime therapist, noticed improvements in Sophia's mobility and confidence during their bi-weekly appointments. "You're moving more fluidly," Ms. Jen commented, as Sophia navigated an obstacle course. "And your balance has improved significantly. Have you been doing extra exercises?" Sophia shook her head. "Just playing more at recess. We invented a new game that everyone can play. It has different roles depending on what you're good at. Ms. Jen made notes in Sophia's file. "Increased physical activity through inclusive play. Excellent. The social engagement is just as important as the movement." At home, Sophia continued working in her purple sketchbook. The glass girl drawing had evolved through multiple iterations, each showing the figure becoming progressively more solid, more visible. Her parents observed this evolution with quiet satisfaction, recognizing it as a visual representation of their daughter's journey. Ms. Rivera says, "I should keep the original glass girl drawing even after the exhibition ends." Sophia told them one evening. "She says it's an important marker of a moment in time." Rebecca nodded. "She's right. Even when we grow and change, it's good to remember where we started." The viral attention gradually faded, as all internet phenomena eventually do. National Mourning Today moved on to other stories. The social media shares slowed the phone calls. To the school office returned to normal topics, but the changes that had been set in motion continued to develop and deepen. One Tuesday during recess, a new student arrived on the playground, a boy named Marcus, who used a wheelchair. Sophia watched as he hesitated at the edge of the blacktop, clearly uncertain about how to join the activities. She remembered all too well that feeling of being outside looking in. Before she could move, Jackson spotted the newcomer and approached him. "Hey, want to play with us?" he called. "We need another person for our team." Sophia and Maya exchanged glances. both recognizing the significance of the moment. This wasn't forced inclusion or teacher-directed interaction, but a genuine, spontaneous invitation. Marcus wheeled over to the group, who quickly adapted their game to include him. Sophia watched from a distance, feeling something warm and unfamiliar, expanding in her chest. Not quite pride, not quite joy, but something equally powerful. That wouldn't have happened before, Maya observed, following Sophia's gaze. No, Sophia agreed. It wouldn't have. Later that week, Elena invited Sophia to help with an art lesson for kindergartners. They're creating self-portraits, she explained. And I thought you might share your glass girl drawing as inspiration. Show them how art can express feelings. Sophia stood before the circle of 5-year-olds feeling strangely grown up as she held up her drawing. This is how I felt when I first came to this school, she explained, like people could see through me. A small girl with hearing aids raised her hand. Do you still feel like glass? She asked. Sophia shook her head. Not so much anymore. I'm more solid now. She showed them her newer drawing where the figure had gained color and substance. That's what happens when people really see you. The kindergartners created their own interpretations of feeling invisible and visible, each bringing their unique perspective to the concept. Sophia moved among them, offering encouragement and suggestions, just as Elena did. You're quite the teacher, Elena commented later. Watching Sophia help a small boy mix colors for his drawing, Sophia smiled. I just know what it's like to need someone to see what you're trying to say. That evening, as Sophia worked on homework at the kitchen table, she reflected on how much had changed in the month since her fall. The physical changes to the school were obvious and important, but the less tangible shifts felt even more significant. The way students interacted, the language teachers used, the expectations the community held. Penny, for your thoughts, her father asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. Sophia looked up. I was just thinking, sometimes good things come from bad moments. David nodded, understanding the wisdom in his daughter's simple observation. They often do, sunshine, especially when someone is brave enough to transform the bad into something meaningful. 6 months after Sophia's fall, the Mapleton Elementary playground buzzed with excitement. Students, parents, and community members gathered for the unveiling of the new inclusive play structure. A colorful sign draped in blue cloth waited to be revealed. The mayor stood nearby, preparing to make remarks. Sophia sat in the front row between her parents, her purple sketchbook on her lap. She had been asked to cut the ribbon, a ceremonial acknowledgement of her role in catalyzing the changes they were celebrating. The thought made her nervous, but also quietly proud. Ready for your big moment? Rebecca asked, squeezing her daughter's hand. Sophia nodded, watching as Principal Winters approached the microphone. Welcome, everyone, to this special occasion, he began. 6 months ago, our school began a journey toward becoming truly inclusive. It started with an art project that opened our eyes to what we hadn't been seeing. And today, we celebrate one tangible result of that awakening. He recounted the story of the Seeing the Invisible project, carefully avoiding singling out. Sophia directly respecting her preference to not be the center of attention. Instead, he emphasized the collective response of the school community, the way students, teachers, and parents had embraced the challenge of creating a more inclusive environment. This playground equipment represents our commitment that all children, regardless of ability, will have equal opportunities to play, learn, and grow together, Winters concluded. And now I'd like to invite Sophia Collins to help us cut the ribbon and officially open our new inclusive playground. Sophia walked forward with measured steps, her leg braces creaking slightly. The mayor handed her a large pair of ceremonial scissors, smiling encouragingly. Together they cut the ribbon as cameras flashed and applause erupted. 2 fifth graders pulled away the cloth, revealing the sign, Mapleton Elementary Inclusive Playground, where everyone belongs as children. rushed to explore the new equipment, Sophia stepped back, watching the scene unfold. The playground now featured accessible swings, sensory panels for children with processing differences, ground-level play options for those who couldn't climb, and transfer platforms for wheelchair users to access elevated structures. "What do you think?" Elena asked, joining Sophia at the edge of the excitement. Sophia observed as Marcus, the boy who used a wheelchair, easily accessed a play structure that would have been impossible for him before. She watched as a kindergartner with sensory issues explored a quiet nook designed for overwhelmed children. She noted how the varying heights and challenge levels accommodated different abilities without segregating children into regular and special areas. "I think it's how playgrounds should always be," Sophia answered simply. Elena smiled. "You know, your glass girl drawing will be featured in an upcoming textbook for education students. They're using it to teach future teachers about inclusive classrooms." Sophia's eyes widened. "Really?" Elena nodded. "Your art is still creating ripples, Sophia, still helping people see what they've been missing." As the celebration continued, Sophia found herself approached by a reporter from the Mapleton Gazette, Sandra Lee, who had written the original article about the exhibition. "Sophia, would you be willing to answer a few questions about today's event?" Sandra asked. "I'm doing a follow-up piece on how the school has changed." Months ago, Sophia might have declined, uncomfortable with the attention, but today she nodded. "Okay, but can Maya join us? She's on the accessibility committee too." Maya appeared at Sophia's side as if summoned by the mention of her name. Together, they answered Sandra's questions describing the committee's work, the changes they'd observed, the plans still in development. "What's been the most important change, in your opinion?" Sandra asked. Sophia and Maya exchanged glances, having one of their silent conversations. "It's not the ramps or the equipment," Sophia finally said. "It's how people see each other now." Maya nodded in agreement. Before, people would look away if someone was different. Now they look toward. After the interview, the girls joined their classmates on the new playground, Sophia trying each accessible feature, noting how they worked, how they might be improved, her analytical mind already identifying refinements for future upgrades. In the midst of the activity, Sophia found herself near the spot where she had fallen that autumn day. The cracked concrete had been replaced with a smooth surface properly graded for drainage and safe movement. She paused there for a moment, remembering the feeling of lying on the ground, surrounded by staring children and adults who did nothing. The memory no longer stung as it once had. It had transformed into something else, not a humiliation, but a beginning, not an end point, but the first step on an unexpected journey. A commotion nearby drew her attention. A kindergartner had fallen on the new rubber surfacing. Unlike that day 6 months ago, the response was immediate. Children paused their play, rushing to check on the child. A teacher approached quickly, but before she arrived, Jackson was already helping the little boy up, asking if he was okay, offering reassurance. Sophia watched the scene unfold, feeling an odd sense of completion. This was why it all mattered, not the newspaper articles or the ceremonies or even the new equipment, but this fundamental shift in how the community responded to vulnerability. Full circle, she thought, remembering a phrase her father often used. As the celebration wound down, Sophia found a quiet moment to open her sketchbook. She turned past the original glass girl, past the iterations, showing her gradually becoming solid. She began a new drawing, the playground as seen from above, children of all abilities, playing together, no one left watching from the sidelines. In this drawing there were no glass children. Every figure was solid, vibrant, present. Sophia worked quickly, capturing the energy and inclusion she saw before her. When she finished, she showed it to Elena, who had been watching her work. "This is beautiful, Sophia," Elena said, studying the drawing. "Such a difference from your first glass girl." Sophia nodded. That was how things were. This is how they are now. As they prepared to leave, Sophia's father lifted her onto his shoulders, a rare treat now that she was getting older and heavier. From this vantage point, she could see the entire playground, the children playing the new equipment, the community that had gathered to celebrate. "Proud of you, sunshine," David said, his hand secure around her legs. Sophia rested her chin on her father's head, watching the scene below. She thought about the journey from that painful moment of falling to this day of celebration, how one small girl's experience had somehow catalyzed change for an entire community. "Dad?" she asked. "Do you think if I hadn't fallen that day, none of this would have happened?" David considered the question carefully. Maybe not in the same way or at the same time, but good ideas and necessary changes find their way eventually. You just gave this one a push. Sophia liked that thought, that she had given a push to something that needed to move forward, that her moment of vulnerability had somehow become a source of strength, not just for herself, but for others. As they walked toward the car, Sophia looked back one last time at the playground, at the children playing at the sign declaring "Where Everyone Belongs." She thought of her glass girl drawing hanging now in the school lobby, inspiring continued awareness. She thought of the Accessibility Committee still meeting weekly, identifying new ways to make Mapleton Elementary work for everyone. "Ready to go home?" Rebecca asked, reaching for Sophia's hand. Sophia nodded, sliding her sketchbook into her backpack. The purple cover was worn now from constant use, the pages filled with her artistic journey from invisible to visible, from glass to solid, from alone to connected. "Yes," she said, taking her mother's hand. "I'm ready."